Welcome to the Middle Ages, a podcast hosted by two women in midlife navigating the wild, liberating, and often hilarious realities of this chapter of life. With a mix of insight, irreverence, and real talk, they explore everything from changing bodies and shifting identities to evolving relationships, work, and purpose. Because midlife isn't a crisis, it's a whole new beginning.
Hello, hello.
How are you? I haven't seen you in 2 weeks.
I know. We've got a few things happening. Actually, for the next 3 weeks, we won't be recording. We won't be doing live recordings, and then we'll catch up. But how are you? I'm doing great. How are you?
Well, I think this is really apropos for our topic today is change, right? Everything. I think this is a period of our life where I feel like change is coming fast and furious, and more fast and furious than it ever did before. And maybe that's just a new perspective. But, like we have these planned every Friday, but I'm going to be away in Europe for the next 2 weeks, and you're going to be away. So we just have to adapt, right?
Yeah. And we do. And we do.
Yeah.
How's life, Steph?
Yeah, life is very, very, very overwhelming and hectic right this week because I'm getting ready to go away, and there's all sorts of things that need to be done before we go away. So I'm trying to madly catch up today, and then tomorrow clean the house for the the house sitter that's coming, and my plan is not going to plan how I had expected it to, but that's change, right? Like we just have to adapt. And I think that's the theme, right? We've got changes happening in our bodies. We've got changes happening in our emotions. We've got changes happening in our perspective of, the role that we play in our lives. We've got changes happening with kids, like kids are flying the kid, like so much going on. And this adaptability, this resilience is such an important piece that we have to figure out, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Change is the only constant in life. We know this. And our pain and suffering comes when we try to resist change. So all we can do is flow with it. And there's a certain amount of trusting and knowing and doing and action and surrendering and all these big things that we try to do to allow change to happen. I mean, I always say this is the time of year that I always theme change with my coaching and my teachings, because change is happening. The days are shorter, they're colder, fall is happening, fall is upon us. And that is just the most beautiful reminder from Mother Nature that change is the inevitable sequence of life. And I think I mentioned last time on the last episode that I was going to see my kiddo last weekend. And it's been a big change for me navigating being a complete empty nester without anyone else in my home. And most of the time I'm really, really doing great with it. I love the quietness. I love the cleanliness. And then sometimes, especially when Friday hits, because I have my office in my home and I have clients coming in like Monday to Thursday. And then on Friday, I don't work at all. And then Saturday, Sunday, I don't work. And I sort of settle in on Friday and realize there is not another soul coming into my house for 3 days. And there's a moment where it kind of feels lonely. I feel lonely. And I find myself instantly wanting to change that. And instead I sit with it because that's just part of our life cycle.
Change is such an interesting thing. I actually have a change management certification, right? And for those of you who are in my world, if you've grown up in the tech space, the ProSci change management, certification is like the be all end all. It's the Cadillac of change management. And change management for me is such a funny thing because we're just sitting here talking about change in our lives and our personal lives and how we have to be so fluid and resilient. And then you contrast that with the concept of change management in like a professional environment. And it's all about being structured, being prepared, being organized. And there's a human side of it too, which is all about helping people understand and prepare for change and then work through it emotionally and professionally and, in terms of how we how we process it and how we build it into our workplace. But it's really striking to me just how different those two worlds are, like how
Mm.
we almost hurt ourselves on a personal side by trying to manage change too much. And if we become more accepting of the fact that things are not always going to be understood, and I think that's something that we really struggle with, or that people in our generation, our age group, really struggle with, is uncertainty. Like a lot, we're in a culture that we want certainty all the time. We want to know what is going to happen, and it seems to be like an award, like a trophy we try to get by being certain or being prepared or having plans or what have you. And I think it's actually quite the opposite right now. Is that I say this with my business coaching clients too, that the minute that you stop judging yourself by having reached a certain point and realize that business is actually a total evolution and a total flow, things get a lot easier because we're so good at saying we're not here yet. We
Mm.
should be here, and should is
Mm.
almost like I wish I didn't have to, right?
Yeah, don't shit all over yourself. Yeah, it's hard though. It's hard because we are, we've said this many times, we are the echo of our conditioning. We are driven by success, by accumulation, by the next project, the next client. And it's so hard to put that down and pause and be okay in the pause. My favorite author, Wayne Dyer, Dr. Wayne Dyer says, and I've got this etched on a pillow because this has been my belief system for about 20 years now. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And that gives me the ultimate absolute responsibility to look at my life and the things that I want to change, the things that are within my managed control to change. Like you talked a minute ago about how we try so hard to manage things. Well, there's some things that I do want to manage. Like I do want to choose to eat healthy, to be active, to be in community. Like those are changes that are within my control. And then there's things that happen to us that, holy shit, like I did not want that to happen. And yet it's outside of my control. There's nothing I can do. And so how do you navigate change when it's not within your control, Steph?
So I sort of think about I have a sort of perspective on failure, and a lot of this has come from being a business owner, and I'm really like thankful for that. But we have a tendency to want to say that everything that happens is good or bad. And when I stopped trying to make that happen, when I stopped being so committed to something being good or bad and just being like, okay, that happened.
Yeah.
And what now I have better information, right? I have some new information. Now, of course, there's things like, my husband or my ex-husband has stage 3 cancer. I had no control over that. And I feel so out of control and helpless about it, which, it's not about me, but if I reflect on that being a change that I didn't want at all, I can't do anything about. And I had to really do some work to figure out, like, I'm so hard on myself saying, you should take this pain away from somebody. You should be able to fix this, and you should be the one to take it on. Like, that's my narrative when people are hurting, is like, just give it to me. I'll take it. And that's a real like value, like self-worth thing, which I had to learn. But I think the process, and because this whole cancer thing is so new for us, I think that what's gotten me to a place that I'm like okay with that kind of change is by recognizing exactly what's in my control and what's not in my control. And so if and trying to be really empathetic and figure out, if I was in that position, in his position, what would feel most helpful and what's the really important thing for him to know. And it's like, can I help out, with the kids? Can I try to make things comfortable for him? But really think like he doesn't have the expectation that I'm going to somehow make it better. But I do think, like, if I was in his position, I think what I'd want to know is just that I've got someone to lean on and then talk to, and that sort of thing. So it's really like setting my own expectations with myself and stepping out of that shame and guilt trajectory, where it's like, you should be able to fix this. I can't fix this. So what I can be is a good human around it. And
Yeah.
let him have his story.
Yeah. I love that. Let him have his story. Let him have his story, because especially when we were brought up in environments where maybe there was too much change, too much chaos, not enough stability, our seeking was for security. And part of the ways that we seek for security in the nervous system is by trying to control things, by leaning into what feels familiar, and sometimes by over people pleasing. And that's where sometimes we can be too much of an empath, where we're giving away our power and opening up our emotional nervous system a little bit too big, at the risk of not taking care of ourselves. So where everyone is self-responsible, and yet of course you're like a kind and giving and open-hearted person, and you want to deliver that into the world, and especially into your family as the need is there. One of the things you mentioned was I call it the locus of control, like what's in my control, what's not in my control. And I have a lot of like young teens, tweens and teens that come in and work with me, and they're usually on the autism spectrum. And that's a really hard thing for them to navigate, because they so much want to manipulate and control the entire world. They're like, everything has to be their way. And a big part of what I show them is what's in your control and what's not in your control. And ultimately, what's in our control is how we respond to life. Like, pretty well, end of story. What's in our control is how we respond, or let's use a different perspective, react if we're being reactive to life. And everything else is an opportunity for us to recognize it. And you said good and bad judgments. Let's just call it all data. It's just data. And I work with
Data.
this really cool chiropractor, and she's like very, very woo woo. I love her. And she often says like, oh, it's just data. And if it's just data, you can just do and change the data. And it's like, I remember that. I remember that so clearly. When I find myself resisting something, it's like, oh, I change my data, which means that I'm letting go of the thoughts, and I'm just letting myself be in the moment.
So I think I want to go back to what you just said about the autistic kids that you work with.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is a really important point, is that control for us means safety. And
Mm-hmm.
when you see somebody being so desperate to control their circumstances, it's likely because they don't feel safety. They don't feel like they're okay.
Yeah.
And control helps us feel safe. So safety is a really huge part of navigating change. I happen to be a person just naturally who really thrives in change, and I actually like it, like I want it. And if things aren't changing enough for me, I tend to get bored, and I almost subconsciously try to make change. So I'm really comfortable with change, but it is like, I think it's the antithesis of what we culturally and socially are conditioned around in our
Mm-hmm.
lives, is that you have to have a plan, and you have to have, now planning for me is, from a business perspective, it's smart. But I also know that the other side of that is you've got to be fluid, and you've got to evolve, and you've got to, learn, you've got to take the feedback and the data that comes back from all the things you try. And this gets us off past the hump of not trying. So many people don't start, they don't get out, they don't try because they're so afraid that they're going to fail, or they're going to have an outcome that they don't want. But if we can like reshift and be like, hey, whatever outcome happens, it's just good information, right? It's
Yeah.
just good information, it's new information. That was such a huge shift for me. I remember when I started coaching that, and then I was like, oh god, that's such a relief, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because even in our personal lives, we have all these standards. And I'm not somebody who traditionally like buys into the idea of marriage, for example. That's just me, that's my values, and that's where I come from. But everything that we determine to be right or wrong about relationships and about love and about intimacy is all based on a very old cultural standard of marriage. And when I finally just let that go and stopped trying to, you know, function and think in a way that was, about this very planned event, things got so much more enjoyable, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 And I think that part about like the right and the wrong, like those are just mind concepts. And There's a story that I heard recently about a boy who was telling his mom, imagine you're being chased by a tiger. And so she closes her eyes and she imagines. And he says, now what do you do? Or she said, now what do I do? It's coming to get me. It's going to attack me. And the boy says, just stop imagining. Just stop imagining.
I
Like
love
it
that.
could be that easy. I love that story. I've used it a lot now because it could be that easy. Like we get so caught in the mind trap, and it's a bit of a prison of a mind about what, let's use the word should again, although I don't like to say should. Should is one of the words that I tell my clients to take out of their vocabulary. It's because instead of should, say I choose to or I choose not to. So we have this personal responsibility, and we don't have to follow the structure that was downloaded to us from the time we were born. And,
Yeah.
so many of our beliefs, our unconscious beliefs are developed and dripped into us by the time we're 7. And then we believe them to be true. So change
And
is going to happen.
Yeah, and unlearning is such a key part of this.
Yeah.
Is because it takes courage to unlearn. It takes courage to actually say, hold on a second, this isn't my value. Like this isn't my belief. And this theme keeps coming up in everything that we're talking about because it's so prevalent. But the ability to distinguish and understand and see that something that's coming up for us is a belief. It's something that we're consciously deciding. I spent all night last night laying there creating this scenario in my head and deciding that it's true. And it was eating me alive. And it put me in this really disgusting place that felt so crummy. When I woke up and had a little bit more not, I was awake, but I was in this half asleep state. But when I woke up and I had a little bit more, because it felt so true.
Yeah.
It felt like this is truth. This is something, there's logic behind it. It's truth. And then I woke up and I got out into the day and I was like, that was like, I'm finally able to see that and look at it and say, that's coming from a place of fear. It's coming from a place of old habits, old learning. Is it true? Probably not. There's a possibility it's true, but how do I want to spend my day being angry and upset and whatever?
And stuck in fear.
Or do I want to spend my day, not, and I'm the one who created that.
Yeah. Whatever you believe is an interpretation of your reality.
Yeah.
Whatever you believe is an interpretation of your reality. It doesn't mean it's real, but you believe it's real. And so there's a psychologist named Adler, and his theory was people are driven by security, which we started off the show by talking about, driven by security more than happiness. And so we have these thoughts, and there's something in them that triggers our safety or our security or sense of security. And that just takes us down a really deep, hard rabbit hole. So for me, when my marriage dissolved almost 6 years ago now, my big rabbit hole was I'm going to be alone for the rest of my life. And I value relationships. I have worked so hard on myself to be able to bring this into partnership. And I'm excited and giddy and looking forward to that, but not to the point where I'm willing to just settle for someone who doesn't match my values 100%. And I've had to reconcile that because I have this sense of need for security as well. Security that I'm going to have someone, to hold me when I need to be held, and someone to share life with me. And I have to be careful that doesn't judge, or that doesn't define the way that I make decisions day to day. So the change happened. It was out of my control. I found myself all of a sudden alone, single parenting, a young teenager during COVID, working online. Everything was so different. And it was hard. It was really, really fucking hard. And I'm proud of the resilience that I've cultivated because I didn't collapse into change. I surrendered into change.
Okay.
And there's
that's such a great segue to, when I was going through my divorce, I was not well. I was in this shitstorm of judgment and shame and guilt and all this stuff. Right. And one of the books that, my therapist had me read was When Things Fall Apart, Pema Chodron. And she's a Buddhist philosopher, Buddhist monk, and
Mhm.
she's awesome, and the way she speaks is great because she's very pragmatic and she's very insightful. And the huge thing for me was the Buddhist philosophy is um, living in the past is depression, and living in the future is anxiety, and we constantly try to be in one of those places. What if we
Mhm.
are just like, hey, we're just here, this is
Mhm.
today.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean that I can't have plans. It doesn't mean I can't strive towards something. Doesn't mean that I can't, want something.
And that I don't
But
take action. Like, of course, we still have to take action in
of
life. I
course,
still have to get out of bed and get dressed
of
and
course,
eat
but
and make my plans.
that acceptance,
Mhm.
that acknowledgement, like I have days where I get to this place where I'm like, holy shit, I've ruined my life. Like, holy shit, why did, I look at other people, I'm like, why can't I have that? Or I totally fucked everything up or whatever. And
It's
I really
so
have to
easy for them. Why is it so hard for us?
come
Yeah.
back to just being like, this is exactly, doing that is such a waste of energy.
Yeah.
Such a
Yeah.
waste, because I can't change it
Yeah.
and I can't
There
like predict the future. So I just have to be like, okay, this is, and again, it comes down to gratitude, right? And I hate
Mhm.
saying these things because it's very like, oh, gratitude journal, that sort of thing. But it's like, can I just be thankful for what I have done and what I have accomplished and where I am right this minute, even if it's not where I ultimately want to be. But the
Yeah.
recognition that there are things in my life I can be grateful for is
Mhm.
super, super. And I am not about toxic positivity in any way, but it is absolutely shifts, how you start your day when you are like, okay, so maybe there's some stress and some anxiety right now, and there's some things that are happening that are not exactly how I want them to happen, but I'm also just okay with that's today. That
Yeah,
doesn't mean
it
that's
is
the rest of
today.
my life, right?
It
Yeah.
is today. When my kids were born, I read this, I forget the name of the book, but it was based on an Aboriginal, Australian Aboriginal tribe and sort of how they build in community and move in community. And one of the phrases they said, and it stuck to me for like my whole life, was "It is today. It is today." And so when my babies would not sleep, when they were sick, when I was tired, when I didn't know how I was going to pay the next bill, my mantra was always "it is today." And I share that with a lot of new moms who are struggling with their babies. It is today. It's not going to be tomorrow. It's not going to be forever. And just saying it relaxes my entire system. Like, that's one of the ways that we can navigate change. It is today. It's not forever. And when we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. Like, don't see it as a something that we need to resist, but something that is potentially opening up possibilities. And we know that neurons that fire together wire together. So the more we do this, the more we surrender to change without trying to fight it, the more we move into gratitude. And me too. Like, gratitude is one of my highest practices, and yet it doesn't come at the very beginning of my day or my practice. So I do body work first, because gratitude can easily be a spiritual bypass, and I've lived that life too. It's like, oh, everything's great, I'm grateful. In the meantime, I have no idea how I'm going to pay my friggin' bills tomorrow. My husband just left, my dad just died. Like, I'm not doing great. So gratitude is fantastic. It may not be the first thing you go to, but have it as part of your day. Always. I go for walks every morning by the ocean. I look up at that big massive rock that we call the Chief, and I just say thank you, thank you, thank you, hand on heart. Thank you, thank you, thank you. No matter what I'm going through, bringing in gratitude is one of those critical key practices to allow our neurophysiology to change. And the more we practice gratitude, the more we welcome things into our life to be grateful for.
And so then again, as I'm always the devil's advocate, or the other side of that is,
Mhm.
I do recognize that there's a lot of people who will be like, okay, just shut up about the gratitude right now. I'm in
Yeah.
the shit, right?
Yeah.
And I think that when you're in the shit, the last thing you want to hear from people is like, well, you have all these good things in your life. And I'm like, do not invalidate me, right?
Yeah.
So there's a way to sort of get your own thinking where it's like, I don't have to be like happy today, but
Mhm.
I can be accepting. And I have a client who's does a lot of work around self-acceptance and Kristen Neff's work and that sort of thing. And I think that that's so freaking important. It is that people hear a lot of this spiritual work and they like, it's all about, there's a lot that's about loving yourself and like, all that sort. We have to get to acceptance first. Have to be like, okay, I'm not going to sit in this place where I'm desperate for everything to be different and everything to change. I'm just going to sit here and be like, it's okay. Everything is just as it is right now. And then tomorrow I can decide how I want that to be in the next day. So nothing sort of lasts forever. And I know like, I'm in the shit right now. I am in the shit. And I am not in a place right now where I'm going to sit down and be like, I'm so thankful. I'm going to be like, fuck, right? Like, fuck. I am, but I know I have 2 days left of this.
Be in the fuck. Be in the fuck of it.
Fuck. But I can still come back and say, okay, this is just what is right now. It's just, and that has been such a super powerful, it's not a big like, oh, I've moved into this beautiful spiritual place. It's like, I've just moved from like desperation to oh, okay, like I can now just focus on what needs to happen rather than continually judging it.
That brings up three things that that I want to share. One is there's we have hierarchies of emotional ranges, and shame is the lowest and gratitude is the highest. Well, when you're in shame or guilt or whatever, despair, you cannot jump up to gratitude. There's like 10 steps in between. It's like, can you bump yourself up one step? And part of the way to do that, we've talked about this on previous episodes, and this is based on Pema Children's work as well, is to be willing to sit in the fuck of it. I love that phrase. Let's just use that from now on, to sit in it and breathe in it. And just breathe in it. And remember, we've talked about within 90 seconds of feeling a sensation, not assigning a story to it, not giving an emotional label, just being in the feeling or the sensation, the research shows that in 90 seconds, it can start to shift. So that's the first thing. I think it's so valuable to just be able to sit in it. And then one of my teachers, so the philosophy that I studied, some of it's Buddhism and some of it is Shiva Tantric study or philosophy. And my teacher, Christopher Wallace, has written a book called Near Enemies of the Truth. And I love that book because it takes all that sort of, I'm just going to call it like bullshit spiritual bypass and puts it into real everyday life. Like everyone says, everything happens for a reason. Well, don't tell someone who just lost their fucking 2-year-old to cancer that everything happens for a reason. That's just bullshit. That's just insensitive bullshit. So I love this book because it looks at all of the concepts that I started spiritual practice with and understanding and learning, and it puts it into like real life. It sort of challenges some of the myths. And then the other thing is from Buddhism, like we know that impermanence is the only constant in life. Like morning will always give day to night, night will always give day to morning. In our community, fall to winter, winter to spring, spring to summer. Every breath changes. Our cellular structure is always changing, like everything changes. And so this acceptance part that you talked about, be in the fuck, and then can you accept that it's just part of life and relax into that, soften into that, and then let everything else sort of unfold without trying to push it away.
You just reminded me of something we talked about yesterday, not you and I, but I don't remember who I was talking to, but this concept of change in our physical environment. So this person I was talking to lived, I think in Florida or somewhere that they don't like very close to like that real warm tropical weather. And they said
no changes.
The difference between, where I live and where you live is we don't have seasons. Oh yeah. It was somebody who had lived in Florida all their life and then just moved up to Spokane, Washington. So, similar to us, but more interior, right? Yeah. And he said, I love having seasons. And I think that's so interesting because here we like to be grumbly about the change of seasons where we're going to get into all of this shitty rain for 9 months and what have you. But I'm like, what would my life be like if I didn't have that change, if I didn't have seasons? And I'm like, that really facilitates something, because the seasons almost give us like these containers for change. And you kind of go, okay, well, we're almost at the end of winter. And so I can situate my thinking about around this very natural change that's going to happen. And it was really interesting to think about, because I bet you I'm certain there's writing about it, and the whether seasons have some sort of effect on how we process and manage change and all of that sort of. Curious what you think about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, just to put it in perspective, we live in this little community north of Vancouver called Squamish, and we really have 2 seasons, rain and no rain.
I don't think we have it. I think we have like brief blips of no rain, but it's
no. We have like, July, August, most of September has been sunny and very little rain. And now we're in the rainy season. And, it's a rainforesty area. So, of course, it's going to rain a lot. I do think, like, I know personally, these changes really inform the choices that I make at this time of the year. So we just celebrated fall like last weekend. And we're recording this on October like 3rd or something. And so, the temperature is cooler, the nights come a little bit sooner. So it sort of informs what I do. And what I find is, as the seasons change, I really want to change with them. But then I find myself getting almost a little too comfortable in the darkness of the change of season. So this week I did something I never do. I went out Wednesday night. So I've started 2 things since we talked last time, Steph. I started doing line dancing. I didn't invite you because I didn't think you would say yes to that. But I started taking line dancing lessons. You lost me to line dancing. I started taking line dancing lessons on Tuesday nights. And then Wednesday nights, I'm making a commitment to play pickleball indoors starting at 8:00. Well, I'm friggin' in bed at 8:00 most nights. And this change in season really draws me into bed even sooner. But I'm making myself commit to doing it because it's good for me. Because at this time of the year, I'm sitting a lot. I'm not as active. I'm not seeing my friends out on the courts. So it's a way that I can really fill my body, my spirit, my energy, and then I go home and I crash. So I definitely am curious about, if I didn't have the change of seasons, how would my life be different? I think it really informs us, and in good ways, but also in ways that we can get a little bit complicit and kind of just like settle into a routine that may not be as healthy. But I think it happens to all of us who have change of seasons. Like, the weather gets a little colder, the days get a little shorter, we cocoon more.
And I'm somebody who thrives in change. Like, I need change. I will actually like purposely seek it out. And I know that even subconsciously, I'll sometimes make things harder just because I get so stimulated and so activated by something changing. It's very exciting for me. And maybe that's my ADHD brain and dopamine and what have you.
Probably.
But I'm really somebody who can't stay stagnant. So I wonder how I would be in a climate where we didn't have seasons and we didn't have change. I'll bring up one thing that when I think about all the sort of domains of change in our lives, the one that I'm having the hardest time with, and this will be very common to all of us in this age group, the one I'm having the very hardest time with is the changes in my body. And on some, I know, like, on some token, we have these mindset issues to deal with, where we're like, oh, accept your body. Listen, fine, I get it, but I cannot, not right now. I'm super frustrated that I do so much work to keep my body healthy and in shape and what have you. And I'm just, I'm dealing with this weight gain, and I don't like my body right now. And I know that, I know all the thinking to do around it, but it still is frustrating for me. And I feel very out of control with the way that my body is. Like, I feel like my body's betraying me.
Yeah. Welcome to the Middle Ages, my friend.
That's right.
That is something that's very much out of our control. And yet there's things we can do. And I know you're doing all the things. And I think the reminder here for anybody dealing with that too would be impermanence. Like this is, when I was 50, the weight just came on. And then when I turned about 56, it didn't come on as much. But the other thing that was really prevalent for me when I turned 50 is I was under an immense amount of stress. That was when I opened 4 businesses, closed 4 businesses, went through a bankruptcy, went through tons of, like, lost everything. And so the stress was extremely impactful on my body. We know stress causes inflammation. So I'm not sure in my case how much of it was the stress and how much of it was, going through really perimenopause at that point. And yet I feel like I feel stronger now than I probably ever have. I'm probably more active than I've ever been. And so I've gone through that. Like I know where you are because I've gone through that. And I mean, I'm never going to have a 20-year-old body. Like I'm probably never going to wear a bikini. And that's okay. I've just come to this place of acceptance. I feel good. I'm energetic. I'm healthy. And yet I remember looking at, I don't own the scale. I haven't owned the scale in like 25 years because I think scales betray me. So I don't own the scale. But I could look at pictures of like, oh man, like I feel like my face was so thick and my shoulders and my back was so thick, and I didn't know what to do about it. So I get it. I know it's hard.
And
I mean,
I think the frustrating thing is that I do feel like stronger and
yeah.
in better shape. And I've been really consistent with my activity and eating and all that stuff. And yet my body doesn't respond. It responds in the way that I don't want it to respond. And it's not even so much about, oh, I should be this. It's more like I'm doing all these things right. And yet it's actually logistically a problem. I just went through all of my pants and I had to put away like 90% of them because they don't fit anymore. And it's so frustrating. And it really like I know something's not right in my body. And then you deal with your doctor and your doctor says to you, well, we just gain weight in middle age. I'm like, no, like that's not what's happening here. There's something really wrong. It's not like my weight's going up and down. My weight is just consistently going up and up and up and up, despite being super active, despite eating well. And it was really frustrating to not get that support with this change. Now I'm seeing a naturopath and she's way better. And she's looking at my results and going, wait a second, you've got all this inflammation here. So it's nice to feel supported. But I think that might be one of the themes here is like, how do we feel supported through change, and how do we not just support ourselves, but where do we get support when we are going through change? And I guess that's kind of different depending on what sort of changes we're experiencing. But I think we have to make sure that we are supported.
I'm curious, what has your naturopath recommended?
So where she's going to do a whole bunch more testing, but there was stuff on my test results that she looked at and she's like, what in the heck? Why has nobody done anything about this yet? And my doctor had just been like, it's fine. I know. She's like, that's not fine. It's not fine. So she's sent me for a whole bunch of follow-up tests, but it's feeling supported through that change is so important, because it's extremely frustrating and a drain on energy when you don't feel like you have the support, or you're basically being told that there's, you're crazy, right? Or like, oh, this just happens. You just have to accept it. I don't accept anything.
Yeah. And I get so offended with this. Well, it's just the two things. One is, well, yeah, that's what happens in menopause. And this gaslighting, almost like you're just crazy. Come on, this is just, and it's really hard. I mean, there's
prioritize it in the medical community because it's just menopause, right? Or it's just that age. And I'm like, no, it is not normal for your body to be putting on 2 or 3 pounds a week consistently when you are active and eating well and all of that, right? So I find that very frustrating. So I think the whole point there is to find the support that you need through all of this change and everything else that we've talked about as well.
And there is a lot of support out there. There's a lot of support for women going through menopause. Neither Steph nor I are experts in the physiological changes and sort of alternatives. But we know that eating well, we know that moving our bodies, weight training, super important at this time of our lives, reducing the amount of cardio we do, because cardio creates stress on the body. I mentioned earlier, stress causes inflammation in the body. So things have to be a little bit different at this age, at the middle ages, and find a community, a doctor, a naturopath, somebody that's willing to do what Steph's naturopath is doing, which is explore with her. Like, don't just gaslight, explore with her.
We don't have to just accept these changes in our
Yeah.
bodies. There
Yeah.
are ways, there are things, and because they can be quite severe, and there
Yeah.
are things that can be done, and people have to look at you as a whole human. So I
Yeah.
would say, like, don't just accept that these changes are just going to happen. If they're really affecting your life, you can get support and you can get help for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And talk to people. Talk to people about what you're going through. Like, we're doing it publicly here because why not? That's what we do. But I went for a walk recently with, like, my very first time meeting someone who actually heard our podcast and asked me to go for a walk. She lives in our community. And immediately we started talking about menopause, how she's experienced perimenopause, the impact it's had on her sex life. Like, she was talking about feeling like sex was extremely painful, like razor sharp painful. And then she was told by her doctor that's just the way it is. And she finally saw someone else who gave her some other strategies and suggestions. I can't remember what she said right now, but she just looked at me and she says, "Thank you for asking those questions, because nobody wants to talk about it." It's like, I don't get it. Why does nobody want to talk about it? This is happening to whatever the percentage of women that are in the middle ages currently. I don't even know the percentage, but it's happening to all of us. And so let's talk about it. Let's make this a normalized conversation, not a taboo subject that people shy away from. Change is going to happen. Some of it, is within your control, which you're doing, Steph, because you're seeing your naturopath, you're managing what's in your control. And then some of it does, like you said, especially when it's environmental or changes that are outside of our control, that we have choices. We can choose to try to battle against it, or we can choose to soften, surrender, and go with the flow. And man, that's hard in life to know. It makes me think right now that Kenny Rogers song, "You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them." You're right. The gambler.
Honestly, the country, you're being taken over by country.
I'm being taken over.
I'm losing
but
you
you
to
know what?
country.
I don't have tons of great memories of my childhood, but I have a really good memory of my dad having bought my mom that album, that Kenny Rogers album, and that song playing so much in my home that it lights me up. So yes, I am, I was taken over by country. I'm sorry, but like in the 1990s with this new country phase, so much so that when my son-in-law started a 90s cover band with all the 90s alternative music that you love, Steph, and you and I were going to these shows, I had to relearn this music. I had to learn this music because I didn't know this music. So I feel like I'm more wide range, broad spectrum with my music knowledge now. And I'm doing line dancing.
Okay, so we're coming up on time.
Yeah.
I think we covered a whole bunch of good stuff here.
Mhm.
And even with the body changes, like, I'm not accepting that this is how I have to feel, but I'm also just accepting that this is what my body is right now. And I can also at the same time do things to try and feel better. But I don't have to sit here in this place of, like, sadness or frustration, because that's taking all this energy away from the rest of my life and the rest of my days. And I think that's
Yeah.
that big constant with change, is that it's going to happen and we can move through it, but it doesn't have to
Yeah.
be, the be all end all, and we don't have to live in the shadow of that change all the time.
And nor do we have to delay living as we're
Mm.
going through this, right? That's a really important thing. Like, it's, you may not be thrilled about the way your body looks, but still go and live your life. Life is
Mhm.
here to be lived, and life is waiting for you. And it's not waiting for you 20 pounds lighter. It's not waiting for you without the gray hairs or the wrinkles. Life is waiting for you now. And so I feel like I want to end on a note of let's celebrate life. And let's celebrate these changes. And we've talked about how many good things come with being in the Middle Ages, right? The wisdom, the not giving a fuck, the really being clear about who we are and how we are and what we want to bring into the world. And like, there's so many good things that come. So let's celebrate that. I want to like raise my cup to that. My cup a friend gave me. It says the cup is
Praise
always
my
half.
family.
It says on both sides, the cup is always half full. The cup is
I love
always
it.
half
Okay.
full. So let's
Well, I'm
let's
going to head
celebrate
off
that.
to Europe. Speaking of change, I'm going to head off to Europe and come
Yeah.
back changed. Parker and I have a tattoo appointment next week in Dubrovnik to commemorate.
Another one.
Yes. Commemorate our
Yay.
trip together. We're going to get the same tattoo and we're going to come home changed.
I love that. Love that. Can I tell you a quick little tattoo my kiddo got recently? So my son, I don't really want to talk much about like my kids' personal lives, but he's got like at 18, he's got almost 20 tattoos, if not more. Turned 18 and it was like, that's it, Mom, my body, my choice, off I go. And you know, it's hard for me to be mad at him because I love them all. He's got spiritual sayings and images, and he got one he went away to school. He's gone for 2 weeks and he messages me and says, I got another tattoo. And it's like, oh, buddy, like slow it down. And then he shows me what it is. And it's a tarot card on his back shoulder. And the tarot card is the Hermit. And the Hermit is like this kind of ominous figure that has like a cape with like a hood and a staff. And next to the Hermit is a golden doodle, which is our dog. And it was like so nice. And the Hermit, I said, what's it mean to you? He says, well, the Hermit's all about introspection, self-awareness, personal growth. It's like, ah, shit. I like it. I don't want to like it, but I like it. So Steph, I'm excited for you. You and Parker go and travel, get your tattoos, have a lot of fun.
And then I have another appointment when we get back for a third
Of
one.
course you do, because it's just so cool.
It's addictive. And it's like,
Yeah.
this is what's so wonderful about this time in my life where I'm like,
Yeah.
I do not give any fucks. Like, I love this and I love my tattoo. I love the ones I'm going to get. And I'm just like, it feels like such autonomy.
And what other people think about you is none of your business.
I couldn't care less.
Yeah.
I've never had I've never had the I care what other people think about me gene. So
yeah, I know.
For better or for worse, but yeah.
Amazing.
Okay.
We'll have an amazing trip. We'll get back on live when you get back.
Yeah, we'll see you all.
And until then, everybody, enjoy the Middle Ages.
And all the change that comes with it.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for listening to The Middle Ages. If you loved this episode, follow the show, leave a review, and share it with someone who's rewriting the rules of midlife too. Because around here, we believe midlife isn't the end of anything. It's the start of everything. See you next time.